Hello, everyone. My name is Brianna, and welcome to our second webinar Q&A session with future Dr. Kachenta. To tell you a bit about future OB-GYNs, we are a student-led organization with members in multiple states in the US and various countries around the world. We are dedicated to advocating for global women's health and hope to spread awareness about conditions and inequities that society has often been silent about. Joining us today is future Dr. Kachenta, who will be talking about her life and journey to becoming a fourth-year medical student and upcoming OB-GYN resident. During the second half of the session, she'll be answering your questions, so make sure to stick around for that and leave your questions in the chat. If you aren't a general member of future OB-GYNs just yet, make sure to apply to become one. We have so many fun things coming soon. And without further ado, I would like to thank Ms. Kachenta for joining us and have her begin her presentation. So thank you all again for coming, and I hope you enjoy. I will make you a host now.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining. I really appreciate I see some familiar faces as well. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint just to kind of help me stay on topic so I don't ramble for the next hour. Okay. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, awesome. So, welcome everyone. My name is Kachenta Descartes, and I'm a fourth-year medical student that's currently applying into OB-GYN residency. Have about a week left to hear back whether or not I matched and whether everything worked out perfectly. But I'm so excited to be here to be able to just talk about my journey to medicine and navigating medical school, as well as navigating your fourth year and getting ready for OB-GYN residency. So just a little bit about that. So did it switch to the next slide? Awesome, great. So my name is Kachenta, and I also have it there again, so you can see how it's pronounced. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. That's where I was born, and my family is originally from a small island in the Caribbean called St. Lucia. I don't know if anyone has heard of that, but it's a lovely island. I highly recommend it. About 129,000 people on the entire island, but it's definitely a place that's near and dear, close to my heart. I'm a first-generation college student, college grad, as well as a first-generation American, a first physician in my family. So there's a lot of firsts going on, but I take pride with everything that I do because hard work does pay off. And I also listed some of my interests, being in particular women's access to quality healthcare, medical education, specifically medical student education, family planning, and underrepresented minorities in medicine, as well as working with underserved populations. So I just wanted to share this quote before I get into talking about things. This is kind of one of the first quotes I saw when I saved it on my computer when I first started. When I first was admitted into medical school, I found this quote, and it said, "The good physician treats the disease. The great physician treats the patient who has the disease." And that's written by Sir William Osler. You'll know him because he's like well known for being one of the original creators of the residency program and specialty training. And he was actually one of the first to bring medical students out of the lecture hall to bedside clinical training. So he's definitely someone you're going to hear a lot about in medical school. So I really like this quote because I think it speaks a lot to how I envision medicine and how I envision being an OB-GYN. I think it's really important that we focus on, yes, there's a lot of information to learn, a lot of medicine to learn, a lot of science, but at the end of the day, we're treating people, we're treating humans who have friends, families, and loved ones. So it's really important to not forget this. And that's definitely something I always remember. So just a quick outline of what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to briefly go a little bit about my background. So just for the future OB-GYNers and future medical students, just to get an idea of things that I've done previously before coming to medical school and kind of my journey into medical school. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about medical school itself, talking about the process of applying, the things that I've done in medical school, as well as why OB-GYN, how did I come to that decision, and then talking about my 4th year and giving advice. And I will give advice along the way. So I think that's the best part, because I feel like I give pretty good advice. So here's the next slide. So a little bit about me in terms of my educational background. I was very lucky to go to boarding school for high school. I went to boarding school in Connecticut at Suffield Academy. I graduated cum laude. I was also a member of the Torch Society, and I loved it in high school. I did a lot of things in high school, but I don't think I went into high school saying that I really wanted to do like extremely well. I kind of just did my work and did my homework, and I graduated with good honors. So I think those are always great things to have. And then with that sort of attitude, I applied to colleges. I applied to like colleges all over the country, I think over 25 colleges. And I ended up getting accepted into Columbia University. I was not anywhere in my mind thinking that I was planning on attending an Ivy League university for college, but actually I found later on that a journal of mine where I wrote down when I was a young girl that I would attend an Ivy League university. I don't think I knew what an Ivy League university was as a kid. I surely didn't know anyone that went to an Ivy League university. I actually didn't even know Columbia was an Ivy League university until I got in, because that's just like, you know, when you are the first in a lot of things, you learn a lot about things that are kind of common knowledge to other people. So I decided to major in neuroscience and behavior because I like biology and I like psychology. And I was like, hey, neuroscience and behavior sounds pretty badass. So I'll go with that major for it. And I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun at Columbia, definitely with my extracurriculars, but it was definitely pretty rigorous academically. Not to say that it was hard for me to do the work. I think as a college student, I think I went into college when I was 17. I started at 17. It does take some time for you to kind of get adjusted to being on your own, being independent, having to do your homework, having the opportunity to not go to class. And I think it's like one of the lessons that I learned coming from there is that you go to class, do what you're supposed to do, because if you do it, things will work out. Like, it feels painful. And I mean, a lot of the books, I remember we had this class called the CC or something, but we had to read all this Western literature, and I don't think I had as much the Oedipus, like, you know, things like that. And I didn't have as much appreciation as I do now for the same information, because I didn't really understand how important and how relevant, because you can't watch The Simpsons, you can't watch, like, you know, hip TV and understand the references that they're making if you haven't read these books or you don't understand these topics. So that was that. And then following that year, so that fall, I started my master's program, and I did a Master's of Biomedical Sciences, which is a 1-year program. And then I'll talk a little bit more why I decided to do that additional degree. And then in 2017, I was accepted into medical school, and that's where I'm currently at. I'm at the Frank H. Netter School of Medicine here in Connecticut. And currently I have a distinction in global public and community health. So that's the focus for me there. Okay. So Masters of Biomedical Sciences. So why did I get the additional degree? So pretty much my undergrad GPA, my science GPA was I kind of had that Chrissy face when I saw things at the end of the day, and I just felt like I wasn't really as competitive as I could be. And I thought to myself, hey, I don't want to rush things. I don't want to get into something that, like medical school, when I have time. That's another thing that that was really important to me, is this understanding that you have time. There's no rush, and you want to make sure you're ready to get in. Because if I had went in straight from if I went to medical school straight from college, I would actually be 25 and I would be going into residency, which would be like super young for me. Because looking back on it, I don't think I would be ready at 25 to have that sort of responsibility. So some of the pros of doing an additional program, it was a year-long program, so it wasn't that long of a program. So I didn't have to, it's not like I had to take any more time off from school. It was great exposure to the rigor of medical school. In particular, this program at Rutgers was at the Robert Wood Johnson Medical School. So you're able to take the classes that the medical students would take. And you get to basically experience that and get to see it and learn the information firsthand. So you're prepared when you go to medical school, because there's a lot of information that some of my classmates were seeing for the first time. But for me, I probably had seen it, one time before, and I had learned it for a grade, versus like in medical school, you learn it to pass. And then also a pro of it is that you get to improve your science GPA. You're taking additional science courses. So having those additional science courses on your transcript is going to ultimately improve your science GPA and make you look more competitive to medical school. So I recommend that to someone who's, anyone that's changing, you felt like you don't have to do a science major in undergrad. So if you feel like you didn't do that much undergrad, you did that much sciences, you can always come back and do another program later on that can help improve your science GPA. And also it gave me more credentials. So I felt like I had already, gross anatomy and being able to dissect a donor body before going into medical school. So I was an asset to my classmates in that sense. And I can offer that to medical schools and kind of advertise that as why you should, accept me, because I'm going to be helpful being there in your program. Some of the cons of it, I'm going to say it's loans. It is additional loans that you're going to have to take out. But for me, there's like a saying, there's like scared money don't make no money. So I mean, if you can't be like, this is a process. And if you're not like, especially people that are coming from low income families like myself, it's going to be difficult for you to kind of bridge that gap that some people took generations to bridge. You're going to have to bridge that within one lifetime, which can be expensive. So it's definitely investing in your future, something that is, worthwhile, but it's also a con when you look at the bill at the end of the day, or you can just be like me and ignore it. Also, another con that could be is that it could be discouraging for some people if they don't perform well. So in these programs, they're usually graded. So there's not pass fail grading system. So you get like a letter grade, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Wait, no, there's no E. A, B, C, D, and F. Yeah. So you can get an F. So you want to make sure that this is something that you're prepared to go into and that you work hard, because you don't want this to be the reason why, a medical school doesn't look at you, or a reason why you're discouraged from pursuing a future career that you can be very successful in. And maybe you just suck at biochemistry, and it shouldn't be the reason why that stops you from becoming a physician. And overall, I think this was the best decision for me to do, because it really helped me shape how I learned, how I studied, and helped me hone in a lot of my test taking skills and prepared me for the overall rigor of medical school that I definitely felt prepared for going in as a first year medical student. So a little bit about my work experience. What did I do prior to this? For many years before, I worked as a program chaperone for the distance learning program, or the physician sciences training program down in Philadelphia. And it was, so I basically chaperoned students. That was awesome, because I was also a participant of this program, where it was basically helps minority students gain careers, specifically as physician scientists, so MD PhDs, or as MDs or DOs. So that was a great opportunity to help introduce me into the field of science and medicine. And being a part of that program, I was able to also get a position as a lab research assistant at the University of Pennsylvania in their biochemistry lab. So that was an amazing opportunity, and I will forever be grateful to Dr. Battaglia for this, because she really, put herself out on a limb to let I think I started when I was 14, a 14-year-old be in her biochemistry lab at the, that she's responsible for producing research and producing results for her. So she really trusted me. And I think that trust and that belief in me that I could read this paper and understand what's going on without having a degree yet, and still being in high school, or being, I think she put a lot of trust in me, and that motivated me to work even harder and to be the best that I could be. So that led into me actually getting a paid research job with her, where she had me. So doing lab-based research is always great prior to coming to medical school, but it's not a mandatory requirement, but definitely having some sort of clinical experience is always great. When I was at Columbia, I worked as a residential advisor. So I was an RA. I was a cool RA for 3 years. So that was an amazing experience as well. And I gained a lot of skills from there that was beneficial in talking about my who I am and my strengths, especially when I was applying to medical school. So definitely having things on your resume where you can say, I've had experience being responsible, I've had experience being in charge of things, always great to have. Because they are looking for leaders, and being in the role of a physician, you are going to be a leader. So you have to demonstrate that, because that's going to be expected in your field. And then finally, right before coming into medical school, my last job was working as a perinatal health coordinator and doula for the Institute for Family Health in the Bronx. I worked at 2 family clinics, and I basically coordinated prenatal care and did counseling. It was I can talk a little bit more about it if we go to the next slide. So a little bit about that job. This was during my, I guess, my transition year, or my gap year, some people like to call it, but I think we're moving away from calling it gap years, because there's nothing wrong with taking time off before going into medical school and between your training. So, so when I was applying for this job, I actually wasn't even looking to have this particular position. I had actually applied to a different job at a different hospital. And it was like, you know, very not me, not working with patients, like learning about like streamlining medical care, which is great, but I like to be with patients. And I was super excited, because I'm like, you know, it's going to pay well. I'm going to be able to do all these things, X, Y, and Z. And I thought I was a shoo-in, and then I got the rejection. I was I want to say so devastated. I was pretty sad, because it was like a job. I needed something to have on my resume for my time off, and I kind of felt stressed out. And then this opportunity fell onto my plate, and I leaped to it. I said, you know what? I've been interested in women's health before, so maybe this might be the way for me to go. And like my mom always says, every disappointment is a blessing. The disappointment of not getting that job led me to this blessing of being a perinatal health coordinator and doula, where I was able to actually interact with people and have a great impact on people's lives, even though I only worked there for a year. So it really helped me develop my interest in obstetrics and gynecology, and it really pushed me to look more into that specialty as a future career specialty for myself. And my experience being there and seeing particular things definitely strengthened that interest and passion. And in the picture below is one of my centering parenting groups. So these are parents with their newborns after they completed centering, so our centering is basically group prenatal or postpartum care as a way to kind of help women create communities with people around them, and also create you know, a community with their physician. So it feels more like a event versus going to the doctor, and it's to encourage that relationship. So I always love looking at the pictures, because it makes me feel so good about the good that we've been able to do for people and the support we were able to provide through those services. And as a doula, the doula services, that's a labor support coach. I did that work on my own on my free time. And it was something that I was trained to do through the Institute for Family Health, and it was a great experience. I had a lot of fun being a doula, and I think it's going to be super beneficial for me as a OB-GYN, only because I think it helps me be more aware of kind of the patient's perspective, and also kind of ways to help with the labor process and make it a positive experience for moms, regardless of outcomes and regardless of the overall timeline of the labor and stuff like that. Okay, so a little bit about my journey to medical school. So pretty much going to medical school, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. I think I said it when I was 6. I told my mom, I was like, I wanted to be a doctor. She was like, how are we going to pay for that? Like, it's so expensive here. And I was just like, I'm going to get scholarships. So, I mean, part of it is getting some scholarships that definitely did help with it, but also having people that believed in me and support me through to my goals. And I'm just so grateful for all those people that did help me. So I think the biggest thing in applying is knowing your career options. Look at what you want for your life and how you see your life. Becoming a doctor is a long process. You spend 4 years in medical school, and then you can spend up to 3 to 8 years in, you know, further training or fellowship training. So that's a lot of time to spend after you graduate before you start like truly meeting your full earning potential. So I mean, I didn't really know about other options like being a physician assistant. So there's PAs, there's also nurse practitioners, which is an advanced degree for nurses. And I think those are all also things that I was exposed to more so, careers that I was more exposed to when I started to do my rotations and came into medical school. But I think they're also great options for everyone to kind of think about, because having a lifestyle where you might not have to go to school as long might be more will be better for you as for your lifetime and your life trajectory and everything. Sorry. So for me, I applied during my transition year. I researched some schools, but I didn't really research them in the sense of like, I didn't know what I wanted in the medical school. So I think advice for people going forward is like, maybe talk to I talk to medical students, but like really talk to medical students, think about what you want in a medical school. How do you want your courses? Do you want them pass, fail? Things like that are really good to focus on. And think about, because that might influence your experience at medical school. Are all your rotations in the same state? Are for your third year clerkships? Those are things to think about. So for me, I took the MCAT twice. I took the old one. I wasn't perfectly happy with my score, so I decided to take the new one to see if anything would change, but I did worse. So I was really scared applying into medical school, because I said, I did worse than on my first exam. Are they going to think that I'm getting worse? So I was pretty nervous. So I applied to about 25 schools. I heard back from Queen of Piac fairly early, and I interviewed, and I fell in love with the school that I'm at now, which is the Frank H. Netter School of Medicine. I love the facilities, I love the campus, and I really loved my interview with one of the faculty here, who she is amazing. Dr. Copes, and she really supports us so much, and I felt that from my interview. So once I got my acceptance letter and they offered a part scholarship, I was like, okay, say less, I'm there. See you. Well, I guess I heard back in 2016, so I'll see you in 2017. So that's always great. And I think for some people, they wouldn't do that. They would wait and try to see where other places they would get into, how the other interviews would go. But I was really happy with my choice, and knew that I wanted to be in a school that had a primary care focus, because I wanted to be, even though I was going to specialize as an OB-GYN, I still wanted to have a primary care focus in my training. So some advice is to start early. Start thinking about what activities you can do to be prepared for applying to medical school, whether it's clinical rotations, volunteering at the hospital. That's something that I did. And definitely don't do things in hopes of putting it on your application. Do it because you genuinely want to do it. And that's something that makes you happy, because later on when you have to talk about it, you don't want to have to struggle through speaking about it, and it will definitely come off disingenuine. Also, applying to medical school is extremely expensive. I was very lucky to be able to utilize the FAP program, which is a financial assistance program, I believe, but very little people qualify for that, because you have to have a very pretty low income for it. And also have someone that's in medicine review your application. Like sometimes the things that would work in other applications might not work, or you may need to highlight other parts of your application more when you're applying to medical school. So having someone in medicine that's been through it, that knows kind of what to look at, is always a great option. And also, don't doubt yourself. People get into medical school. The first time, the second time, the third time applying, it happens. They go in at 20, 24, 20, 30, 40, it happens. So I think staying positive and not doubting yourself, if this is something you really want to do, nothing's going to stop you from reaching that goal. So in medical school, I've been involved in a few things. I think primarily one of my biggest things was Medical Students for Choice. I was also involved in all these other opportunities. I kind of wanted to just list them there just for anyone that is in medical school that is applying to OB-GYN, just an idea of some of the things that I did. I was also, so I definitely was involved in the community. We did a lot of our health career pathways, like speaking to high school students who are interested in health careers, and also helping out on Science Fridays and teaching middle school students about science. And that's my group at the top, where we were learning how to make DNA out of candy. I think we ate the candy and said whatever to the DNA. But so my biggest point about your medical school involvement is practice what you preach. I think if you say you care about something, I want to see it. How are you involved in things that you're interested in? I say I'm interested in women's health and women's access to quality health care. How can I say that if I'm not involved in anything that addresses those issues and helps those problems? That just means I'm just saying that to say it and because I think it looks nice. How can you say you're interested in medical student education if you're not contributing to the education of your fellow medical students and your fellow colleagues? And I think that's what I do. I practice what I preach, and I try to stick to what I say, so that because not only for myself, but because other people are watching, and people want you to, and it's just like you need to motivate others. So being able to do it and staying consistent speaks volumes. Okay. And I also wanted to make a little point about my capstone research. This is a little bit too of what I've done at Quinnipiac. So a great part of being at Quinnipiac is that they include time for you to do your capstone research for medical school during your medical school time. So I actually did my capstone research in the Dominican Republic, where the title of my project was Family Planning and Access to Gynecological Care among Haitian women living in Batay communities in La Romana, Dominican Republic. So the point I want to make about this is, like, if you're interested in research, and you're definitely, if you're going into a specialty like that, they look for their applicants to have some sort of research experience, some sort of research, to show that they can do research. Especially like OB, surgery, orthopedics, dermatology. These are some of the specialties that would look for people with research experience. This is a great opportunity, especially looking for that in your medical school, that they're giving you time, they're supporting you through this experience, and they're making sure that you're getting this. So this is my project. It was awesome. I got to teach about family planning. I got to do qualitative interviews, interviewing women about their access to family planning resources, as well as their interests in family planning resources. And then I was able to create a pamphlet at the end, which is going to be distributed, which is awesome. And for my research, I was given high distinction in global and public community health. So that was awesome. And that was an accolade that I was really happy to get, because it means a lot. And this is about my presentation. So this is all my different presentations that I did. Yeah, this is just basically to explain, present. Poster presentations, oral presentations are always great. Not only because it like fattens up your CV, but it's also great to share your research with others. Like when I did my research, I got to meet people that were like doing research in the Batays, people who are planning to do research in the Batays, which is the part of the Dominican Republic I was in. And also, like, it's just great networking. You meet a lot of people and you get to have a lot of great experiences. And a lot of times in medical school, your school pays for these trips. And they're awesome to take some time off and go talk to people. So some advice for medical school going forward: opportunities are everywhere. Be involved and apply. So with that, opportunities are everywhere. Don't think that you won't get it. So no will always be the answer if you never ask. And I think that's something that I learned, especially with my high distinction for my capstone. I initially wasn't going to apply for high distinction because I felt like I didn't meet the goals of my research and felt like I could have done better. But eventually I said, you know what, I'm going to do it because the answer is going to be no if I don't do it anyways. So I put it in and it actually worked out. So that's why I say apply. I also applied for a summer fellowship research grant where you get money to basically do your research over the summer, and that basically paid for me to go to the Dominican Republic, and that was awesome. So again, apply. Take advantage of every opportunity because you never know who you might meet on that. I say do what is expected. That's like, don't do anything that just because other people are doing it, but do what is expected. If there's requirements, there are expectations in medical school, do them. Don't try, like, it's like oftentimes you might try to find some people might find the easy way out of things, or if no one's checking on it, then I shouldn't have to do it. I think it's perfectly fine to have that sort of attitude, but I think the attitude that gets you really far is the attitude where you're saying, you know what, nobody's watching, nobody cares, but I'm going to do this. and I'm still going to do it. And I think that's the behavior to have, and that's the type of mindset to have to be successful, because you're going to be a physician. No one's going to be seeing if you are keeping up on the recommendations. No one's going to be checked. Well, maybe, you know, when you have to take your recertification boards, they will check up then, but no one's doing that. You know what I mean? So you have to continuously push yourself to educate yourself, continuously push yourself to learn the new recommendations, any changes, any updates, anything like that. That's your job. And a lot of times in medical school, you're going to have to do things that even when you're the most tired, you're still going to have to do it. And that's why you have to do it. And that's why I say do what is expected. You're in medical school, do what is expected of you. You want a career for yourself, do what is expected. Finances, how do you pay for medical school? Loans. I mean, unless you're, for me personally, I have a lot of loans. I don't really think about it that much. And I think like some people, they've been very lucky and privileged to have their family pay for them, or, you know, get full scholarships or not have any loans at all. But for the most part, people do take out loans. It's just best, you're going to talk to your financial advisor, you're going to talk to a lot of people, and they're going to help guide you on how best to manage your funds. But at the end of the day, you get through it. There's going to be a lot of expenses. So definitely leaning on your family for help, to pay for your board exams, to pay for your practice exams, all of those things. It's always good. Board exams, you have a lot of them. They're expensive, anywhere from like $600 to $1,000. I don't think it's 1,000, maybe still 1,000. I don't remember, like 900. So they are expensive. Some schools included in their tuition, some schools don't. So just keeping an eye out for those costs, but just making sure you study hard. If you need any advice on studying and things like that, you can ask me, I can direct you to someone. But yeah, step 1 went great. Step 2 could have been better, but hey, I got interviews, everything worked out fine. Other advice, find a mentor. It's definitely important to have someone that you can lean on, someone you can ask questions to. I oftentimes, like, you know, for me personally, I kind of felt going through medical school, I never really had that, that I've had people help me, I'm not gonna lie, but I haven't felt anyone has taken it upon themselves to be my mentor. I think it has to be a two-way street. People have definitely helped me, but I definitely feel like it's hard as a minority to put yourself in that position to network and to avail yourself, especially when there's limited people who look like you or who have had experiences like you, who can truly give you from their perspective the best advice. So that's something that I want to work on, especially going hopefully as a Black OB-GYN. I can definitely help others interested in pursuing the career as women, and as a Black woman. I can definitely feel like my perspectives are unique, and I have a lot to add. So I think it's really important for us to be mentors and help each other to get through this crazy game of medicine, because it's not easy, and it can be taxing, but with the help of others is really important. And as an underrepresented minority in medicine, you are a lot of times the only person of color in the room. People are going to address you as something other than who you are. They might assume that you're a cleaning staff. They might, no offense to saying anything's wrong with being a nurse, but they might refer to you as a nurse and not listen to your recommendations or something. So, just keeping that in mind and not trying your hardest to not take it personally. I mean, there's been times where I've had to take it personally when I've had a patient, very clearly say like the N-word doctor. I don't want the N-word doctor anymore. And I was just like, wait, I'm not even a doctor yet. I'm a medical student. But I was very lucky in that situation to have an attending physician. So, the lead physician really nipped that in the butt and be like, hey, sir, I understand you have a traumatic brain injury, but you're going to have another one if you use that word again. So I think having people, and I think that's to go to my colleagues and people who don't identify as a minority, like as a person of color, to really step up. And those are the opportunities to really defend your colleagues, your friends, and let them know, like, listen, I'm not going to treat you if you're going to talk like that. I'm not going to sit here and feel uncomfortable and just let this fall onto deaf ears. I'm going to step up and speak for my colleague. I'm going to help them out because I know that they are probably feeling a lot worse than I'm feeling. So I think that was like the one big experience where I really was faced with racism in medicine, and that aspect, like blatant racism. Uh, but I was very lucky to have an attending who was there to support me and really nip things in the bud. So work-life balance. I felt pretty good for the first 2 years. You know, you went to school, you studied. I find studying fun, so I didn't really need like my friends were in medical school too, so we studied together. So our fun time was studying, and I mean, you get used to it. Like studying is fun. Like I can spend an entire day in just reading a book about medicine, and that's fun to me. But people who do go out, they have time to go out. Like I had time if I wanted to enjoy myself, have fun. I had plenty of time to do that. I think it gets a little bit trickier in your third year because you are starting your clerkship rotations and you're on the floors and you're having a lot more busier weeks. Sometimes you're doing 80 hours a week, almost in the level of an intern. So it definitely becomes harder during third year. So why OB-GYN? So I picked OB-GYN because of a lot of reasons. Primarily, I think one of the kind of starting points was sort of life experiences. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, passed away before I was born at 45 from cervical cancer. It's really hard because, you know, growing up, she lived on the island of St. Lucia, which is a very small island, an impoverished island, in the sense that there's no oncologist on the island. So she actually has to fly to the neighboring island of Barbados to seek her care, and eventually the disease unfortunately took her life. And this is something to say because cervical cancer is not something a woman in the United States would die from. So the fact that, you know, my grandmother lost her life to something that is treatable is sad. And that kind of, and my mom said when I was a kid, I told her, you know, it's always a kid, you're always talking so much. I told her, like, you know, I want to be that person to help other people's mommies and grandmas. So sorry, I get all sad about it. But that really played a part in why I decided to go into OB-GYN, because I wanted to be there for other people's moms, other people's grandmothers. And also with my previous job, seeing some of the things that women go through, especially being pregnant, and like a lot of the social issues, I felt like wasn't being addressed. And I felt like I'm smart and I get the social issues. So why don't I do this? I can help them medically, and I can help, and in particular, the population I want to work with is underserved women, particularly women of color, Black women, Hispanic women, because of the fact that I feel like I can give the information in a way that I would understand it, because they're coming from the same experiences, the similar background as me. So I really wanted to pass that and do that in the future. Another major point for me was my third year rotations. I love surgery. I had a lot of fun doing surgery, but I was just like, I can't be around the surgeons because they weren't my people. And also I wanted to do primary care as well as a part of my practice. So I was like, what's the best job but to be an OB-GYN, where I get to be a surgeon and a primary care provider. So that really helped me with my decision. And then finally, I saw the aspects of emergency medicine in it. And I had a great time doing emergency medicine, and I got to do that as well as OB-GYN. When you have emergent cases where you have a ruptured ectopic, you have ovarian torsion, you have something that, you know, you have a placenta abruptio or something like that, you know, get there when you need to. Action, I like that stuff. And I found I got all that stuff as an OB-GYN, and it's the best specialty ever. It's definitely going to be tough at first. I'm looking forward to the struggle of being an intern and learning, and the learning curve being a vertical line versus being a slope. I'm ready for that. So because it excites me to be in that position and to learn the medicine and be able to provide care to people. That's like exciting. Also, there's a lot of variety in the practice. You get to do a lot. You can decide how you want your life to be. You can go into, you know, outpatient kind of a practice where you see patients at clinic all day. You can go into academic medicine where you are teaching. There's a lot of variety in what you can do as OB-GYN, and that's kind of what I wanted, because I don't know how I'm going to see how I want my life to be in a few years. Maybe I want to be in the hospital all day, every day. So maybe I don't want to be in the hospital all day, every day. I feel like I change as a person. I might not be in a specialty that can change with me. Also, there's opportunities to subspecialize. There's so after your 4 years of OB-GYN residency, you can further subspecialize as a gyn oncologist. You can do minimally invasive gynecological surgery, MIGS. You can do maternal fetal medicine. You can do, so these are all great. You can do Urogyn. So there's so many options afterwards. Family planning. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about them while they go through my head. But these are all options that you can do to further your training in those fields. And you can be REI, reproductive endocrinology. That's a great one. You know, and they all look so different in terms of their day-to-day practices. So I think really getting exposure and getting an idea of what you want to do, you have plenty of time to figure that out. But there's so many options. So my 4th year. Yeah, it's not 3rd year, so it's better already. So 3rd year was rough. Definitely you like, I cried. To be honest, I ended up in the emergency room once with a panic attack. But that only made me stronger. And when I tell you, and I did perfectly fine in the rotation. I ended up high passing anyway, so that was a great thing, because I was so just downtrodden. It was surgery, and I'm over here speaking about it with a positive light. So like sometimes, like for instance, like you see, I went through all of that, and now I'm like happy about it, because looking back on it, hindsight is 2020, and I'm just like, there's a lot of things that I experienced, but it made me stronger. There's nothing an attending can say to make me feel sad anymore. It's just like, no, I don't know the answer. Like, I will look it up later for you. As a 3rd year, I think I was very much like, oh my God, I don't know the answer. I don't know Ranson's criteria. Like, the world is going to end. I'm not going to be a good physician. I'm terrible. But then as you learn, you start to learn that everyone's in a constant state of learning. You know, everyone, like, there's things that I know that an attending didn't know, you know, like, it's not they didn't know, but they didn't remember, you know. And it's also like, it's not like you don't know, it's just like you don't remember. I guess that's, you don't know, but you don't remember, and it's fine. Another thing I learned is that I'm very capable, you're very capable. By the time you're 4th year, you're going to see a 180 change, because the way I was before I started my 3rd year was, you know, a little like all afraid and everything. And now as a 4th year, I'm like, okay, I'm good. What do you need me to do? Let me go. What patient? Okay, you don't need to tell me any of the history. I'll go figure it out when I go in. And that's the kind of comfortability that you gain from going through this experience and being there. And again, practice makes perfect. If you don't go home and practice, you're not going to do any better. For instance, I was really adamant about learning how to do knot tying during surgery. I didn't know what knot tying meant. I thought they were talking about like tying knots somewhere else. I don't know where I thought knot tying was going to happen, but it happens during the procedures and during the surgeries. You got to tie a knot after you throw a stitch. And I didn't know how to do it. And I felt really embarrassed. And I was kind of stressing out on it, because I'm just like, this is my future career. I'm going to have to tie a lot of knots as an OB-GYN. I better know how to do it with one hand, because I'm just like, everyone could do it with 2 hands. No, I want to know how to do it with 1 hand, because that's what the attendings do. And I just literally went home, and every day I got my string and I started practicing my knot tying. I practiced my knot tying, and I became proficient at it. Now I can throw knots. And now, you know, when I'm in the surgery and the attending's like, oh, do you know how to throw a knot? And I'm just like, watch me, knot tied. So that's always the exciting part. But you have to push yourself, and it does require you to take the time, you know, but if it's going to be what you're going to do for the rest of your life, it's fun. Like, it's literally fun to do things like that on the free time. So I applied to residency. I applied to like 30 programs, I think, because this year is weird. So everything that was going on, everything was virtual interviews. So I personally like the virtual interviews. I feel like I can convey myself over a camera pretty well. Also, I did a lot of research. I researched how to prepare for this. Like, everything I do, I research. If I'm going to do something, I research it. Because you have to know, like, even when I'm making, like, I just made like chimichurri. I Googled like 4 different recipes to see how each recipe was done. And then I cumulated all of them to think, what would I think would be the best recipe? that's what you do. And I kind of think that's how you do a virtual interviewing as well. You have to research, you research your programs, you research where you're going, and you just have to make sure that you know what you're going to do. What's the best way to have your camera? What's the best thing to do? And this is how you are successful. But if anyone wants more advice on virtual interviewing, I could definitely you can always reach out to me and I can always talk about that with you. Okay, advice for fourth year. You know, and also I guess for anything, but start applications early. My mom always says the early bird catches the worm. And start doing working on your CV and your personal statements early. I was very lucky that my advisor, she was on us from day one about this, and I was able to get things done. But you're gonna have to do like 13 drafts of your personal statement to begin with. So yeah, there's no rush in doing it, but just trying to make sure that it tells a story. It tells them why you're there, and who you are, and why the specialty, and why should we give you a job? Because when you're applying to residency, which is different from applying to medical school, you're applying for a job. You're not applying for a school. You're applying, they're wondering, is this person going to be a good employee and learner? But at the end of the day, you still have to be a good employee because they're responsible for you. Another thing is complete your requirements as soon as possible. I say that in like, I finished my requirements. I could have probably finished them even earlier, but I probably finished all of my requirements in February. So now I have the next few months to kind of relax, do the extracurriculars that I want, do other things in my free time. So that's what I recommend. So you can have a little break in vacation before you start intern year, where you're gonna be working 80 hours a week and you're not gonna eat, sleep, or do anything else. But also I'm saying that, but I don't have any idea if it's really like that. So we'll see. That's what I've heard. And another piece of advice is attend residency program info sessions and open houses. I attended a few of them, and I feel like honestly, just by attending them and, you know, making FaceTime with program coordinator, program director, actually offered me the opportunity to get interviews from those locations. So I definitely recommend taking the time out to do that if you are doing that, especially even for medical school level. Like if you're applying to medical schools and they have open houses, they have things like that. Show up, you know, speak, say something, you know, because even them just recognizing your name in the future is helpful, and them seeing your name again. And the last thing I have to say is network like no other. I didn't realize how much networking was so important in medical school until I came into medical school. Network. Especially when you're applying to residencies, reach out to the residents that are there that you may know or may not know, and who went to your medical school, and see kind of what their experience is like, and if there's any advice that they can give you or any ways they can help you. And yeah, also network with attendings. Definitely when you have to get your letters of recommendations, like speaking to people and seeing who can write your letter of recommendations. Trying to get, you know, the chair to write your letter is the best. So I was definitely that person, like, I need the chair of this, and this. That's who's gonna write my letter. But luckily I was, you know, praise God, I was actually put in those positions to work with them and be able to get the letter of recommendations for them. So I've just been very lucky in that sense, to get those people to write my letters. And this is also my little graduating and for checklists, kind of just to show you where we are in the game of things and to offer some advice going forward. So what are my next steps? Currently, I'm waiting for the match results in a couple weeks. We find out on the week of the 15th to the 19th, so that should be exciting. Graduation is in May, and then residency in July. So I'm really excited to get started all those things and move forward and continue accomplishing all these goals that I've set for myself and making my family proud. It's always an honor to do this, and I think it's really important that we remember why we do this. I wake up happy and joyous when I think about my patients. I get so excited when I kid you not, like I'll be like, oh, I can't wait for my future patients because I'm gonna, yes, that's how I feel. Like I really feel excited because I'm just like, my future patients are gonna benefit ultimately from what I'm doing right now. Like if I don't know something, if I'm sitting in my room and I'm just like, man, like how much, like, or like, let me think of something. Like I'd be like, oh, how much blood loss is this or something? I don't know. I'm gonna go and look it up. If I don't remember it, like I'm just like, wait, this is like pertinent for someone's life. Let me go look this up. Oh, what do I do? Epinephrine first or what? Like, I like to make sure I'm on top of it because it's like your life is my life, and I like to do with patients. I do unto them as I like to have done unto myself. So you already know I like to treat myself like a princess. I'm going to treat my patients like princesses. So as long as it's within their benefit and their care and stuff, if they want to be treated that way. But yeah, so this is the next thing, and this is just a quote from Michelle Obama. It says, like, when you've worked hard and done well and walked through the doorway of opportunity, you do not slam it shut behind you. And I think this quote is so important because what I want to do is continue holding the door open for those to come after me. I love the idea that I'm, after match week, after match day, get the opportunity to be an OB-GYN and provide care to people with uteruses, people with vaginas. Like, that's just exciting for me and a privilege for me to do that because I wouldn't do anything else in this world. And and it makes me happy to know that others want to do this, and it motivates me to make their lives easier than mine, because my life is drastically easier than those who have come before me, but there have also been obstacles that I look to help mitigate for those who are to come after me. Particularly, that's why I have a focus on medical student education. There's a lot of, and I think it's something that I would like to say to others, like, don't forget where we came from. Don't forget where you came from. Like, we were all students. We were all there. We all knew what it was like to feel ignored by your intern, to feel ignored by your team, to feel like you're not learning anything, that, there's times where you feel that way, or, you're not actively participating in this procedure, or you don't know what's going on and you're too afraid to ask. We've all been in that situation, and we have to take it upon ourselves to be aware and to be present and to ensure the positive experience of those around us. Because at times I feel like I have to, it's work to be aware, but I try to do the extra, to go the extra mile, especially as when I was a fourth year with my third year medical students, I was the sub-I. Hey, I noticed that you didn't know how to do a knot tying during our procedure. When you're free next, come, and we're going to sit down and I'm going to teach you how to knot tie. And that's what you do. Because I remember how it felt to be there and someone asking me to knot tie, and I never knot tied before. And I want to do well. I want to impress. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take it upon myself to teach this student how to knot tie so he doesn't feel how I felt when I was in that situation. It was tough teaching him because he was left-handed and I was right-handed. But guess what? You got to know how to tie knots on your left hand or your right hand. So guess what? We both learned that day. I learned how to do it with my left hand, and he learned how to tie a knot. So that's what I'm saying. Like, everything, every disappointment is a blessing, and you do things out of your heart and the good will follow from it. And keep the doorway open for others to come after you. So I will end with that. That's all I have to say, but thank you so much for listening. I've provided you guys with my email, my Twitter, because I just made one, my Instagram. I might be changing my handle later on when I match, because, can't be too excited before the day. And feel free if you have any questions or anything, if you need like advice. I'm, especially before June, I'm definitely going to be available to answer stuff. So that's the best time to get me. But yeah, I would love to be a resource to people who's here, who needs a resource. Anyone that's looking for advice, I would love to be that person for you, because I will be your champion. And we'll get through this. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, definitely leave them in the chat. But I actually have a few questions for you. How did COVID-19 impact your med school experience?
So, I mean, in the beginning, I was in the middle of my third year pediatric rotation. So that was going pretty well. But then like 2 weeks, like the third weekend, we got pulled out of rotations, and I mean, it didn't really affect me so much in the beginning, only because there was a lot of a leeway for us to um, sort of do other activity, like other type of like not in-person electives. So I was able to do like pathology at home. I was able to do radiology at home. So that was okay. But I think it did affect me in terms of like academically, in the sense that I was on track to get honors in um, pediatrics, but unfortunately, they only could give me pass, because the course was converted to a pass fail, which was like, because it's like it affected my like my standing in my class. Because if I had had it, I would have had a much higher standing in my class. But I mean, these are little things. It's in the past, so it clearly didn't affect my ability to get interviews or my ability to interview for OB-GYN. So I was happy that still worked out.
Thank you. Um, Also, I wanted to ask about your favorite and your least favorite class in med school and in undergrad, if you want to go into that.
Um, Undergrad, I don't even remember what class I took in undergrad, but my favorite class in undergrad was Caribbean studies, I think it was, but it was basically going over slavery and through America and the Caribbean. It was really interesting because I learned a lot of historical things about the United States, like, events that's happened and stuff like that. And that was really interesting. And the teacher, she was amazing, because she like really had us involved. And it was like my first time in undergrad where I was like, I really like my teacher. And I felt like my teacher was there for me. Um, I can't think of my least. My least was probably, I think, like I took like calculus, like no, I took like I took statistics with calculus. That was a mistake. I didn't know you can drop classes. I ended up in that class and I was just like, I don't think there's any other freshmen here. And I was like, wait, I don't know how to drop classes. So I ended up taking it. I think I got like a B plus in it. And it was like a senior level course. Don't know how it happened. I kind of just wrote things on a paper, and I think the curve was just so bad that it just ended up that way. I think in medical school, my favorite course, I would say, um, I think so in one of my in the preclinical years, I'd say my favorite course would be anatomy, only because I think it's such a privilege to be able to dissect a donor body and have that experience, that intimate experience, really seeing what makes us what we are. Because I think, oh, there's a lot to our bodies that just makes it, like, to me it's magical. And I really think that experience is once in a lifetime, because how many times can you tell someone like, I got to dissect the human body, without going to jail the next day, legally. So yeah. And I guess my least favorite class in medical school was anything that was like, I felt like was maybe like wellness yoga. Don't tell anyone that. But I like to do yoga on my own. I think when it's forced on me, no, it's the Tai Chi. Whenever it's forced on me, I'm just like, no. Like you can't force it. Like I want to go home and sleep. That would be good for my wellness, sleeping. But yeah.
Also, someone asked about if you remembered either of your MCAT scores, and also this is a personal question, but what was the difference between the old MCAT and also the second new one?
So the first MCAT was I forgot. There was like only 3 sections in it. Um, but you only had like, I forgot, but that's how old it. Oh my God, I feel so old. But it had less sections to it than the newer MCAT. Because newer MCAT, you have like biochem, you have this, you have that. The previous one was also on a 2-digit score, and the newer one is out of 3 digits. So you get up to like, 5 something, something like that. So my score was pretty poo poo, because I did worse. So I think it was like 490 something. Don't tell anyone that. But that's what I remember. But also, like, I have a funny way of remembering false facts about my life. But I'm pretty sure it was the 490 something. I'm gonna say 498.
Okay, thank you. Someone said They're soon to be M3. Any advice for picking clinical sites for OB-GYN or other rotations?
Yeah, so it depends on where you are. I honestly, so it if you're at Netter, then if you're at my school, it it depends on the type of experience you had. I had my clinical rotation site didn't have any residents, so I worked primarily with attendings. I like that because I felt like the attendings. It depends on your personality. If you are excited and you show that you're here to learn and you want to be a part of things and that you're their colleague and you make them feel like they can trust you, they're gonna let you do a lot of things. Like I got to deliver a baby. I was able to really assist in a C-section. So they really do get the baby out from the C-section, deliver the baby from the C-section. So those are exciting things, and it requires a lot of trust from your attending. And I think being in a location where there wasn't any residents, I had a little bit of benefit of that, but I also didn't get to have the experience of what it was like to work with residents and be in an OB-GYN residency program. And also there's less volume at sites where there's no residents. So I think later on, I think I did get the opportunity finally to work with residents during my 4th year when I did my sub internship. And that was a beneficial experience, and I got to see what it's like to be with residents. And honestly, I would do it the same way all over again. I got a good experience with no residents, and I got experience with residents being there.
Great. Someone else asked, what advice do you have for high school students?
Okay, for high school students, yes. The stay focused. Time flies really fast. I can't believe it's been 10 years since I graduated from high school myself, but it's you can accomplish a lot in that time. Um, I went to college, I did grad school, I did medical school in that time period, so you can do a lot. Um, I think making sure you work hard and gain that strong work ethic early on. Fun will come. You will have fun. I promise you that. Um, and you're gonna have to make sacrifices. There's gonna be a lot of sacrifices. I don't know, I've had to miss a lot of birthdays. I had to miss a lot of events with my friends. I didn't go on vacation a lot. I don't really go out that much. But at the end of the day, I see these sacrifices as 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 almost like inserting tokens and chips into who I am to provide better care. Like I don't want it to sound cheesy because it's not like oh my god I want to do all she wants to do is just give out good care, but it's just like that's genuinely what I want to do. Like I genuinely want to make sure I'm doing a very good job, and that's the kind of behavior you have to have going forward. Like I'm going to do what I have to do, but I'm going to do a good job of everything that I do. I'm going to work hard and try my best with everything that I do. Not everything will be perfect, but at least to say I tried. And it needs to be a genuine I tried, not like I tried. It needs to be like, oh, okay, I tried, try a little bit harder, but definitely staying focused. But there's gonna be ups and downs. And again, every disappointment is a blessing. So when you are disappointed about something, think about it in a different light. Think about it as like, how is this what can I do? How can this be a stepping stone for something greater?
I agree. There are definitely a lot of ups and downs, but the reward is really great. Someone asked, would you be open to mentoring high school students who are interested in becoming an OB-GYN?
Oh, of course. Like I'm open to like helping anyone at any level to wherever to the best of my ability. Um, Definitely. I mean, with high school is great, college is great. I wouldn't be a what do we call the most proficient person, so you're gonna have to help me a little bit because I'm gonna be like, wait, when is the MCAT due again? So, but I mean, overall, in terms of like looking at personal statements, giving my advice, and like reviewing things, definitely I can be just as useful and helpful.
Well, thank you very much. I think that's all the questions we have today, actually. So if you want to sign off and give your last few words, then that would be great.
Okay, then no problem. Well, it was so nice to speak with you all, and I wish you guys all the best of luck in your journey. And if anyone needs any help or any advice or anything like that, definitely let me know. Again, let me copy, I guess I can copy my email into the chat, so people could have that. And also my IG, just in case anyone needs that too. You can always add me there because I put a lot, I try to like keep some updates and put some cool information on there as well that can be helpful to all of you as you go through your journey. But yes, thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor to be here and speak about my journey.
Well, thank you all for coming. If you want to sign off, you can go ahead. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much for making this such a comfortable experience. I think
No
it was so nice to
problem.
speak with you.
No problem. I hope I made it, fun and I wasn't
very
rambling and
fun.
understanding. Okay, I'm happy for that all.
Thank you so much. Bye.
No problem. Bye.